Welcome back to JT's Customs, and I've got an exciting build here today. So what I've got, and don't ask me how I run into these because they just come my way. I don't know, I'm a magnet. But this is a 1973 Suzuki TS250. Now where I found that, it's an amazing story. This bike, I purchased it from the original owner, okay? And it was bought locally here in the Reno area. And it was bought about the time that I worked at the very dealership that it was bought at. And the original owner told me that they bought it at Cycle Fun, which was the Suzuki dealer. A man named Bill Bickerstaff was the owner. Quite a eccentric guy, very, well, he just did all sorts of things differently in the motorcycle industry. He would sell things really cheap. Sometimes he wouldn't come off his price. He was just, you never knew what to expect from Bill. And he was just an amazing guy. I learned so much from him. He took me out on the town many times as I was a young man. I was probably 21, just turned 21. And he knew this is a funny story, he knew all of the places that all the old ladies went to. And he said, JT, you've got to go with me because all the old ladies have daughters and you have to be, this is his words, you have to be Jack the Raper, not Jack the Ripper. And if you come with me, then I will be able to ensure the mom that you are just a good guy and that you're not, a rapist or, a womanizer, that sort of thing. And it was fun. I'll just leave it at that. But what we have is this bike was so original. When I first saw it, I didn't care what I had to pay for it. I mean, you look at this chrome, and this chrome is in immaculate condition. This bike was sitting for 30 years in the guy's garage, and he would occasionally fire it up. But what he did, which was real funky, is he hand painted, probably with latex paint from Commercial Hardware, which was the old hardware store, both the tank and the fenders and side covers. So he told me that he thought it was, because it was so long ago he couldn't remember, that it was yellow. And sure enough, I ground down a little spot here, and there was a chip right here, and it says it's yellow. So most of these have all the turn signals gone, a lot of them that I've seen, and there's very few of these out there. I don't see many videos of anybody having one other than some of these big collectors. This is the original seat cover. It's got some cracking on it. And I told the seller, I go, well, that's not original because it doesn't have the Suzuki on the back. But I looked further, and I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see it, but it had the outlines in here of Suzuki. So they must have taken that off at some point. But I mean, look at these original clamps that you've got on the wiring. It just, I was just had to have this. Just had to have it. There's just no way around it. This sprocket's in excellent condition. The chrome is in excellent condition. If you look down here in the hub, that'll polish up. I'm not gonna do a lot to this compared to my other restorations, because I think it's worth more as a survivor. And so the things that are probably detractors are this paint, and inside someone creamed the tank. So I've been looking for a tank to replace it. I'm not going to find one. It's pretty obvious I'm not going to find one. And down in the bottom, it's not bad. And it's rough because of the cream, that I'll be able to do an epoxy liner. I'm going to have to take all this out and all this off, clean that up real good. But if you look at the gauges, it's still bright red, and that's what you can tell from that if this thing has been sitting out in the sun. Plus these covers, these lenses will get all checked, sun checked and cloudy. 1900 miles. Just unbelievable. The switches all work. High and low. Left, right, and there's no sticky horn. There's some sort of a wacky kill switch here, I think. I'll figure that out. But it's got the original Suzuki grips, the original levers with the black rubber, which I'm going to probably redip a little bit right in here. I'll probably just dab and spot that. The other thing that you're never going to see this. This still has the plastic right here. The plastic, you see that little green hue to it? It's still got the protective plastic coating on the rearview mirrors, which are Suzuki. So it's just amazing. And with this, less is more. Of course, these wheels, they're going to have to come off. The tires, they were probably put on, I think in 03, could have been 93. But they're like brand new. There's a cool little tool kit / spark plug holder that was put on there. That I could probably just take off, and someone would really like that. The sticker is still on the shock. It's still in good shape. Now the chain adjuster shows that it's near the new area. The brake, it's a little bit towards it's probably got 30% left on it. It came with no battery, and there was a cover that goes on here, which I've got to source, and that's going to be difficult. I've already figured that out. But the other thing that makes this such a rare find is documentation. So the original owner, I sat with him for at least an hour, him and his wife. Original owner bought it Cycle Fun. The title shows 1979, but that's because he had it reissued to include his wife. And with this documentation, I feel that the bike is just 100% 100%. This is the real deal. So there's a lot of work to do. So I'm not going to call this a detail. This is going to be a restoration, but I am definitely not going to paint the frame. I am not going to do anything with the cylinder and the case itself. I'm probably going to polish these out, but there again, I may not, because I just don't know if I want to break the seal on this. I know it's never been off. So I'll probably give it a try. But first things first, I wanted to see if it had spark. And kicking it over without the battery, sometimes you won't get spark. It needs a battery to complete the circuit. But this did give me spark. And the other thing I did was I installed a new spark plug here. I did a compression check through this hole, and it comes up to 135. And now this bike's been sitting for 30 years. He says he hasn't started this thing. He did put oil in the cylinder. He kicked it over. This was his baby, brand new. So I'm going to have to see what I've got in the cylinder walls, which I can tell you right now, I already have. I've taken my endoscope and I went in. There's the typical carbon buildup on the top of the piston, but where it's flaked off, it shows a silvery piston. The sidewalls don't have a whole lot of scratching, and there's still evidence of the crosshatch. So our first step is to see it run. And to do that, I'm going to pull the carburetor and we're going to clean it up. And we will reinstall it. So let's get to that. Now with the carburetor out, I'm able to get in there and clean the lines and underneath the carburetor. Get that nice and clean. That way I can see if the oil is passing through those tubes. And I've got the carburetor on the bench here. One thing I noticed, it does not look as though this carburetor has ever been pulled apart. All four of the screws are showing no marks. And usually there'll be a little hashing on them. Now this is what I'd normally expect. As you remember, my last carburetor on the TS250R was like, brand new inside. This is going to take a little cleaning. But it's really not bad. You can see the corrosion on the jet. It's got an unusual set of floats. They slide on these pins here. They just slide up and down. See if I can move it up and down. And just slide up and down here. Everything's cleaned up and it looks beautiful. We're going to have no need for parts. The only part that I might have gotten would have been the O-ring that seals at the head or at the intake manifold. It goes right in there. But, I'm going to put it together. We're going to hear it run. We'll see. All the parts are clean, so let's put it back together. And don't forget, record how many you screw it in until you hit the bottom and record how many turns. I wanted to show you, we've got this really clean, but this is a totally different style of carburetor. What you have here is you've got the main jet going in to the float bowl. It goes in like so. And what that does is it regulates the fuel that comes up through this hole through the jet. And then on the end of the carburetor, that's not it. On the end of the carburetor, you've got this little pickup. And what this pickup does is once it's installed and you've put the float bowl on, there's a little rubber washer. You can see it there. And it goes down and seals this hole right down in the bottom there. Very unusual. I've never seen that. But what it allows you to do is change the jet without pulling the float bowl or the carburetor. Why isn't that the way all of them are? You could have this thing jetted perfect in about, I don't know, half an hour. And there it is, put back together. Got all the screws and everything. All the plating is just in perfect shape. So there was nothing to do plating wise, but there was a lot of cleaning to do. I like to have them crystal clean inside before I try to initially start it, and I don't want to have to go back into it if I don't have to. Well, the moment of truth. Not exactly the moment of truth. You can see over here, got a little leak in my Pringle valve on my little remote gas tank, but I had it running. It was full of oil. I don't know if you can see it down there on the ground. There's a couple of dots of oil. I put 2-stroke oil in it to just lubricate it a little bit. It's been sitting, and it runs like a top. You can see a lot of smoke though because it's got to clean out. Isn't that idle? let's see if they'll blink when I rev it up. And let's see if we got a high and low. High and low. Like we got a tail light. Let's see if we got a brake light. Oh, looky there. Oh, it's so sweet. Look at all that oil in there. That'll all come out. Nice dripping. Oh, this is so exciting. Now, I'm not able to tell if I've got oil coming through those lines or not. But I'm going to have to let it run for a little bit. Clean out all that oil I put down the spark plug hole. Something tells me it is injecting because I think it would have cleaned up by now. And the tachometer. It looks like I've got a light out here. A lot of little things to be done to sort out. Yeah, I think I need to turn it down a little. It wouldn't run like this if the seals are bad. Very nice. I definitely have lubrication. I'm not worried about it. Look at the oil on that. Look at that. Yeah, we're going to get it all out of there. So I'm not going to bore you to death with that, but it's running and it sounds great. I mean, I don't know if you can hear it, but there's almost no piston noise. Almost just like none at all. That is so cool. So we've got past the first step. So from here we'll just take it piece by piece. Alright, so what we're going to do now is test this transmission. And as always, safety first. Okay? Safety. You gotta have worn out shoes. 4 gears, all 5 gears actually, work. And the clutch is good. The brakes are good, so we are good to go. If you noticed when it was running, it had a little bit of a rattle, and I found it. So that'll get tightened up when the battery gets installed. But what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the tank. And earlier I had pointed out that someone had creamed the tank. Well, I looked all over YouTube for what to use to get cream out. And this is acetone. So I've got a secondary containment. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill it up all the way to the top of this filler neck. But what I wanted to show you is I just ran about half a gallon through this filler neck here, and it literally started taking the cream off instantly. So when you're reading those videos about what to use, and you're looking up on all of the blogs and TS250 sites, or just gas tank cream removal, something tells me that this stuff is gonna, I mean, it just literally, I can show you, I think. Let me see if I can get this off and have it roll over. Let's see if I can have it roll over the top. Let me get a little bit better light on it. I don't really think you're going to be able to see it, but see the glops of cream coming over. This has only been in there like 10 minutes, so I'm going to fill it to the top, and we're going to give it an overnight soaking. And I bet, if you ask me, I bet it's all going to be out, or at least it's going to be free inside the tank, inside of all the acetone. Now the acetone supposedly will dissolve it to where the acetone will just look milky, but we will see. So there it is, topped off, and this little piece here that I couldn't scrape off, watch this, it just comes off. It just comes off. So if you ask me, overnight might be overkill, but that's okay, because I want it all, if I could get it all to just turn into a milky color in the acetone, then I wouldn't have to fish all the big clumps out. And I think that I might be lucky that these people only used a fraction of the amount of cream when they were doing it, because it didn't seem ultra thick. But I believe we're going to be able to save this here tank. It has been sitting for 2 days, and mission accomplished. Look at that. All that cream is gone, and it's ready for rust removal. So it took me a long time here, but I've got it stripped down. Got everything off that I can get off of it, so I can get it in the wash bay. You know, you never can get up in here, get all that clean. And if you don't take off the air box and the battery box, you can't get up in here and get this frame really spotless. So I'm going to take it out and we're going to wash it. After a lot, and I mean a lot, of scraping and cleaning and brushing, this thing really came clean. Look at the steering head. Now you can see a little bit of grease here. I've got to do touch up with some lacquer thinner, here and there, but the wiring is bright and brilliant. And as you can see, I've got to get a little bit more of the splooge off of that. But I've got the cylinder about as clean as it's going to get without some sort of blasting, and I don't want to do that. This is a Survivor. I don't want to pull anything more apart than I have to, especially when things brighten up like that. Look at that. Look at that. Just silvery and beautiful. Now, I still have to decide whether this is coming off. But Chico's he spent almost a whole day yesterday ordering parts, and I'll show you, or I'll have him show you, but these screws, this has been off before. Now that I can see what we've got here, here's one that hasn't been off, right there. And you can see it doesn't have any narfing or anything. And then you look at this. So that's what we got. These look really good, but I went ahead and ordered all of them. And well, actually, no, this is for the case. All of these, this side cover, because if I can pull this off, it's so much easier to polish. But look at the frame, and underneath, clean. I'm going to be real happy. Look at those Suzuki bolts. I'm going to be real happy with this when it's done. And so in the meantime, after I had the first soaking in acetone to get the cream out, all the cream came out. So the second soaking is with vinegar. And as you can see, it's really starting to turn silver in there. But it has a rough texture. Now, I don't know whether that's just pitting from rust or whether that's another liner, but I don't think so. I think that's just like pitting from rust. Like they actually soaked it before they did the cream and got most of the rust out. So I'm going to let this sit a little longer, but I think it's pretty much as good as it's going to get. It hasn't really gotten any better. Right at first, all the rust started to come out. You could see it form, turning from, that deep rust red to a silver. So we're going to let this soak probably maybe another day, maybe not. And then we're going to rinse it. And I love that texture anyway, because that texture is something to bite onto. That is going to really, the Coswell the Coswell tank liner is going to take to that real nice. Well, I got all the sheet metal screws out and I've rinsed it. You can see that you're going to get surface rust. It's just going to flash rust on you really quickly. If you can see down in there, I don't know if you can see it or not. You can see down in the see the bottom there? There we go. It's nice and shiny down there. Nice and shiny. So anyhow, see if I can zoom in. All right, we have a special report here from JT's Customs. Chico, we have to make sure you understand that Chico has not been hired back. As you know, Chico got fired as the parts manager, basically because he's just a little lazy. But I hired him back as a consultant on this one because he really needed, well, I just didn't have the time to order all the parts, right, Chico? Yeah. Right? Yeah. Well, so just to give you an idea of how busy he's been, look at all of these parts we've ordered. This is page 1. This is page 2. And a lot of it is new OEM parts from Partzilla. They really had a lot of parts available for this. And an exciting part, I mean, Chico was very, very excited, right, Chico? Yeah, when he found an original battery. A Suzuki battery? Is that right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I gotta say it. You know, when you're a consultant, you really work hard. But when you're an employee, you milk the clock, don't you? You just milk the clock. It's between now and feeding time and all that sort of stuff. So here's page 3. Just look at all of the individual parts. And we're on page 4. So just wanted to make you aware of the important update about Chico and his future here is more of a consultant. There's just no way. We can't get along. He's late to the office. You know, he's easily distracted. Look, see there? Look at that. Easily distracted. So we are going to continue on as a consultant situation here. But while we're waiting for all of these parts, I took the time to pull this back down, and I didn't want to break the original tube in here that feeds it because I just didn't, it was working. I didn't want to mess with it, but I want to show you, I rinsed it out with lacquer thinner, and I want to show you what I found. This was attached to the side of the plastic, and it's just gelled two-stroke oil. So I'm really happy that I went ahead and went the extra mile to get all that out, because I didn't even see it until I was able to wash it out, drain the old oil, and look at the back. Look back in here. It was like stuck underneath this area here and back here. So we have a really, really clean oil tank now. So I have the chain removed, and that will allow me to get in here and clean this that I couldn't get clean when the chain was on. With the wheels off, we can inspect the bearings and the other pieces, and I'll show you what I came up with. The bearings were in really, really good shape, but I inspected all the oil or grease. I scraped out all of the grease, and it was like that light tan. It wasn't rusted, but it had small little pieces of the chrome plating or the plating that I believe was on some of these bearings. And I probably could just lube these up, put them back in, but the bearings are not expensive, so I've got those coming. But you can see that this is, for sitting as long as this thing has, I mean, I don't know how many of these you've done, but this whole area in here just gets completely oxidized and funky, rusty, almost to where the brakes don't want to work. So I'm real happy with that. The bolts still have incredible shine, and they're dirty. All of the shims. The chain will clean up. But what won't clean up are these. These are the cushions that go on this hub, and when you give it the gas, from what I understand, the TS250 doesn't have rubber clutch in the clutch disc, doesn't have a rubber mounting, so that you've got a little bit of a cush within the clutch itself, so that you can have a real true connection here. You don't have to have anything that kind of softens the shifts, and instead they put that rubber dampening here. So I've got two that are still okay, and I've ordered 4 new old stock, and I had to spend a lot of time to find these. This is actually metal bent over, and the rubber is completely gone in pieces. And these probably at some point will have to be replaced, but I'm going to go ahead and replace them with these style. Now they made a new style that superseded this, and I just want to keep it like it came. I think it's got more value in it when it's got everything, you know, original. And by doing that, I'm going to keep those original. The rear axle is in great shape. The hub's in great shape. Look at the plating on these bolts. These will all clean up. They're going to look beautiful. So I'm going to take this time to show you the lined fuel tank. And there it is. You can see the sides. When you rub your finger on it, it's like glass. And that's a super coating that I think the Caswell, I've just always used the Caswell, and it's been really good. And it's all lined inside. So we've got the tank prepared for paint, and the paint at RS Paints is already coming, and that took like a couple of days after I ordered it. I got the tracking info, so that is awesome. But it's a great time to probably end this segment with this rebuild. I want to call it a rebuild. It's really kind of a between a restoration and a super detail. There again, you can see I can get in here now and I can get all of that grunge off. I can get to the back. I'm going to pull these shocks and clean them, and they're going to look like that on the inside also. All these little details to me really matter. And I just don't want to take it any further apart than I have to, because it's only original once. But after cleaning, you can see these foot pegs have next to no wear on it. And so I believe the mileage on it, what is it, 1,700 or whatever. And the brake lining, it has about what I thought it would, maybe even a little more, maybe 50%. And that's plenty for, especially for a collector bike that, you know, I hope somebody doesn't take this out and turn it into a off-road thrasher. But it is really coming along, and all this bright work, it's priceless. There's not a speck of corrosion on it. There's no pitting on these fork pegs or on these fork tubes. There is not a single pit, not a single one. And the seals are still good. Just unbelievable. So it's just a great time to end this segment. So please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. I know everyone says that, but it is helping build. I'd like to get more subscribers. I've got people that email me and message me and say, I cannot believe with all the restorations you've done that you don't have 500,000. This one guy said there's a lot of people out there on YouTube that have 500,000 subscribers and they do shoddy work and they only have a few videos. I don't know how they really do that, whether they pay to have it boosted or whatever they do. But so anyhow, it's really coming along. We're going to get all the parts here in the next few days, and it's going to fly together. So tune in for the second segment of the 1973 TS250.